The global stage in the mid-2020s was fraught with economic uncertainty. Markets were volatile, and investors were on edge, trying to navigate the choppy waters of international trade. A new era of protectionism was emerging, with nations increasingly prioritizing their own interests. This shift was marked by rising tariffs and trade barriers, as countries sought to shield their economies from external pressures. The relationship between the United States and Japan, two economic powerhouses, became strained. Long-standing trade agreements were being questioned, and diplomatic tensions were on the rise. The United States, under pressure to reduce its trade deficit, turned its attention to Japan, particularly its robust automotive industry. American manufacturers were struggling to compete with the influx of Japanese cars. The situation was a powder keg, with each side hesitant to back down. Negotiations were tense, and neither country wanted to appear weak in the face of economic adversity. The world watched with bated breath as the trade war drums began to beat louder. Analysts and experts weighed in, predicting dire consequences if a resolution wasn't found. The United States demanded concessions from Japan, pushing for increased access to the Japanese market for American goods. They sought to level the playing field and reduce the trade imbalance. Japan, however, was reluctant to compromise on what it considered fair trade practices. They argued that their policies were in line with international standards and that any changes would unfairly disadvantage their industries. The impasse created a tense atmosphere, with both nations hardening their stances. Diplomatic channels were strained, and the possibility of a full-blown trade war seemed increasingly likely. A trade war, with its potential for economic damage on both sides, loomed large. The stakes were high, and the global economy hung in the balance. The United States accused Japan of unfair trade practices, particularly in the automotive sector. They claimed that Japan's policies were designed to give their manufacturers an unfair advantage. They pointed to the significant trade imbalance between the two countries, with Japan exporting far more cars to the United States than it imported. This disparity was seen as a major point of contention. The United States argued that this imbalance was unsustainable and threatened American jobs and industries. The fear was that continued inaction would lead to further economic decline and job losses. The simmering trade tensions finally boiled over, creating a ripple effect that was felt across multiple industries. The United States, in a move that sent shockwaves through the global economy, imposed steep tariffs on Japanese automobiles, aiming to bolster its own car industry. These tariffs, designed to protect American car manufacturers, had a significant impact on Japanese automakers, disrupting their well-oiled production lines. Companies like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, with their extensive manufacturing presence in the United States, were caught in the crossfire, facing new challenges. The tariffs had an immediate effect, causing a sudden spike in the prices of Japanese cars. The cost of Japanese cars in the United States rose, making them less competitive against their American counterparts, and altering consumer choices. Sales of Japanese vehicles dipped, and the stock prices of major Japanese automakers tumbled, reflecting the market's uncertainty. The tariffs threatened the carefully calibrated supply chains of these global companies, causing logistical nightmares. They were forced to reevaluate their production strategies and make difficult choices, including potential layoffs and factory closures. The tariffs also sent ripples through the United States economy, affecting various sectors. While intended to protect American jobs, they raised concerns about potential price hikes for consumers and job losses in industries reliant on Japanese auto parts and manufacturing, creating a complex economic scenario. The situation highlighted the complexities of global trade and the unintended consequences of protectionist policies, emphasizing the interconnected nature of modern economies. Japan, facing a significant challenge, chose a path less traveled. Instead of succumbing to the pressures of a trade war, they sought a more enlightened route. Instead of retaliating with tariffs of their own, they opted for a more strategic and forward-looking approach innovation. This decision was not made lightly but was a calculated move to ensure long-term success. The Japanese government, in close collaboration with the auto industry, decided to leverage the crisis as an opportunity to accelerate technological advancement and diversify their markets. They saw this as a chance to redefine their position in the global market. This decision marked a turning point. It was a bold move that required vision and commitment from all stakeholders involved. Japanese automakers, known for their efficiency and quality, shifted their focus towards developing cutting-edge technologies, particularly in the burgeoning field of electric and hybrid vehicles. This shift was both a response to immediate challenges and a preparation for future demands. They ramped up research and development, investing heavily in battery technology, fuel efficiency, and alternative energy sources. These investments were crucial for maintaining their competitive edge. The focus on innovation was not simply about weathering the storm of tariffs, it was about anticipating the future of the automotive industry. They aimed to set new standards and lead by example. Japanese automakers recognized that the world was moving towards sustainable transportation solutions, and they were determined to be at the forefront of this revolution. Their vision extended beyond immediate gains to long-term sustainability. Their strategic response to the trade conflict was as much about survival as it was about seizing a golden opportunity to lead the world into a new era of mobility. This was a defining moment that showcased their resilience and forward-thinking mindset. The strategic response of Japanese companies was not merely reactive, it was rooted in foresight and long-term planning. Recognizing the rising tide of protectionism in the global landscape, Japanese automakers had begun diversifying their manufacturing and supply chains well before the tariffs were imposed. They expanded their production facilities in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and other parts of the world, reducing their dependence on the United States market. They also invested heavily in automation and robotics in their domestic plants, increasing efficiency and reducing reliance on labor in high-cost countries. This proactive approach proved invaluable. When the tariffs hit, Japanese automakers were better positioned than many of their competitors to adapt. They had the flexibility to shift production, mitigate losses, and continue supplying vehicles to the global market. Their long-term planning had provided a crucial buffer against the shock of the trade war. In the face of rising trade tensions, the U.S. government and private industry began to work more closely together. This collaboration was aimed at creating a more competitive economy, and it involved a range of strategies, from policy reforms to technological innovation. As both sectors joined forces, they sought to address the challenges posed by international competition and to find new avenues for growth. This period marked a significant shift in how government and industry interacted, laying the groundwork for a more integrated approach to economic development. Japan's technological prowess in the late 20th century was undeniable. From consumer electronics to automotive innovations, Japanese companies were leading the way. Their commitment to quality and efficiency set new global standards. This technological edge not only boosted Japan's economy but also positioned it as a formidable competitor on the world stage. Meanwhile, in the United States, there were growing concerns about the economic impact of Japan's rise. American industries, particularly in manufacturing, were feeling the pressure. There were fears of job losses and a decline in American industrial dominance. Policymakers and business leaders were grappling with how to respond to this new competitive threat. In response to these challenges, both nations began to explore diversification and strategic partnerships. The United States sought to strengthen its technological capabilities through innovation and collaboration. Japan, on the other hand, looked to diversify its markets and reduce its reliance on exports to the U.S. These efforts aimed to create a more balanced and sustainable economic relationship. Despite the tensions, there were those who saw the potential for turning this crisis into an opportunity. By fostering greater cooperation and understanding, both countries could benefit from each other's strengths. The lessons learned during this period would go on to shape the future of U.S.-Japan relations, paving the way for a more collaborative and prosperous partnership.